Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Course Studio. Welcome to the show. So, let's just get this out of the way, and I guess you probably already saw it if you read the thumbnail or, the description or the title. Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong on what my assumption for the Watcher in the Water would be. I was right on one thing, which I think was probably the obvious thing. Let's jump into the card. We'll talk about where we differed on this one, and then also, yeah, of course, some fantastic budget buys and pricier picks, because this is going to be a very exciting commander. The Watcher in the Water is a 9/9 legendary creature, Kraken. That's right, yet another fantastic sea monster tribal commander potentially. That costs 3 blue, or should I say fantastic in the 99, maybe even a sea monster tribal commander. We'll jump into it. It enters the battlefield with tapped with 9 stun counters on it. And a stun counter is a reminder, if a permanent with a stun counter on it would be untapped, you remove 1 from it instead. On top of that, whenever you draw a card during an opponent's turn, you create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. And whenever a tentacle you control dies, you untap up to 1 target Kraken and put a stun counter up to 1 target non-land permanent. So, this is a very interesting, very exciting, brand new, again, commander, and potentially a card in the 99 of a good amount of decks out there. Again, Sea Monster Tribal, and maybe wheels. Yeah, wheels are what you want with this kind of a card. Yeah, some people in the rules committee don't exactly like wheels because they can be used and abused quite easily, and this is an example of that. And yeah, this is going to be a commander that benefits you heavily for drawing cards. Now, specifically, drawing cards on your opponent's turns, which is very easy to do. Again, there are plenty of ways to do that. There's plenty of fantastic instant speed draw spells, instant speed X spells, and yes, instant speed wheel effects. Being able to discard your entire hand and draw back up to, well, either that amount or to 7 in some circumstances is huge. And with this, it's like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm at 20 cards in my hand because I drew all these other cards, making a bunch of tentacles, and then I'll just wheel them away, draw 20 more, make 20 more tentacles. Good luck, opponents. So, this I do like the kind of interplay with this one, though, where, again, this is a giant creature. Again, a 9/9 for just 5 mana. Yeah, green, eat your heart out. I mean, okay, green can do that and then some, right? I mean, that one dinosaur is like a 10/10 for 5. Still, this is a massive creature, but it comes with a massive downside in a way where, well, you can't use it, basically, ever as a creature until you actually can untap it, essentially 9 times, or if you've got another way to remove those counters from it. But when you do remove those counters, again, whenever a tentacle you control dies, you can untap this kind of a creature, and then there you go. Put a stun counter on something else. So you can kind of distribute those stun counters to other things, your opponent's things, their non-land permanents. It doesn't have to be just their creatures. Now, it's nice on their creatures too. It can slow their creatures down or just even potentially prevent them from ever untapping again if you can get things going. But also, hey, their mana rocks maybe? Again, if you're playing against a non-green deck, chances are they've got a lot of, non-land permanents that matter. Like, hey, yeah, mana rocks. So do that. And of course, there's ways to proliferate, get even more stun counters on things. And again, when you are proliferating, you can choose not to put another stun counter on this because you probably wouldn't do that. Regardless, there's a lot of really exciting ways you can take advantage of this. Yeah, I really like this design. I think it's very cool. Again, it's a very powerful effect. Very, very powerful effect. And when it comes to how I was wrong, well, in a couple of different ways. Number one, I was right on this actually being the Watcher in the Water, where that would have the ability, whenever you draw a card during opponent's turn, you get a tentacle, because Morrow said, that would exist, and it makes sense for the Watcher in the Water, obviously, with the tentacles. That being said, I was wrong on, well, the power and toughness. I believe I said 5/7. Also, it came to keywords. I put Menace and Ward 2, because I feel like Wizards throws Ward on a lot of things. They threw him on a lot of other things, but not on this. I did say the mana value would be 6, not 5. I also included it in Dimir, so it would have black in it as well. I still think that should be. I don't know why Wizards didn't do that. This kind of seems like an evilish creature to me. Anyways, whenever a tentacle you control dies, you untap. I definitely didn't include that either. I did include kind of like a, whenever you're drawing a card in an opponent's turn, it's a benefit for you. And then whenever an opponent draws a card in your turn, it's a detriment to them. I think it was draining them for 1. So I did kind of have that interplay. They don't have that. I still like the design of this one. I still like my original design too. But yeah, a lot of things I got wrong, so I just wanted to get, past that and just mention that. Comment below on how wrong I was. Regardless, though, on this episode, of course, I'm taking you through the budget buys and the pricier picks. Again, the budget buys cards that are less than $1, price picks more than $1. Regardless, all these cards will be in a card list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into those budget buys. And we're going to start off with, oh my gosh, you guessed it, a wheel. Yep, Tolarian Winds. Discard your hand, draw that many cards, and instant speed for 2 mana. Again, instant speed matters a ton for draw effects and wheel effects with this kind of a commander. Again, drawing a ton of cards in your turn, sure, that's beneficial, for drawing cards, but it won't help you trigger your commander, and that's the goal. Trigger your commander, make a ton of tentacles, take over the game. And yeah, I guess I could say that, sure, you could windfall on an opponent's turn if you had, like, Vidal Canori out, and there's ways to do that. Leyline does it, too, to give you, flash, essentially. Just keep that in mind, though. You want to make sure that you're utilizing instant speed effects. So also, Midnight Clock, a great card, a great mana rock that, well, isn't that efficient. 3 mana, tap for a single blue mana. Yeah, not efficient, but it gets Hour's counter on it on every single upkeep, and then on the 12th one, and you can actually pay mana to put an Hour counter on it too, on the 12th one, you basically Time Twister, essentially. You shuffle your hand and graveyard in your library, draw 7 and exile this. So, as long as you're doing this on an opponent's turn, you trigger your commander and you're going to be making 7 tentacles. Next up, Whirlpool Drake. This is a bit of a weird one. 2/2 flyer. Enters the battlefield, shuffle your hand into your library, then draw that many cards. Once from the graveyard, you do the exact same thing. Now, with this one, if you have ways to use and abuse ETBs on your opponent's turns, like, a simple blink effect, like Essence Flux, great. You can do that with the ETB. Regardless, if not, hey, block an opponent's creature on, their turn, to get this taken out, and then get your hand, reshuffled in, and then draw a lot of cards. It can actually be a good attack deterrent for your opponents because they're going to be like, well, I don't want them to make all these tentacles, so I'm not going to, attack this player for the Whirlpool Drake. So that could actually be a good, deterring factor, there we go, for your opponents. Next up, Sword Time is here, another creature that can help you out in a different way. Pay 4 2/2 lands, return 2 lands you control back to the owner's hand, discard your hand, draw that many cards. So basically, wheel. This is a repeatable wheel effect that is a decent amount of, decent amount of mana there for 4, but also, losing lands, getting them back to your hand. If you need to, hit your land drop again, you can with that, obviously, but you're at least going to be 1 land down for doing this for the most part, unless you've got other ways to get more lands back from your hand and play like a Walking Atlas or that one Patron of the Moon, whatever that one is, essentially, where you can just get lands into play for just 1 mana. So yeah, this is a downside, but also, again, potential massive upside for the amount of times you can activate this and the amount of tentacles you can make. But of course, outside of wheels, yeah, like I mentioned before, plenty of great ways to draw a ton of cards. Pull from tomorrow, draw X cards, discard a card. Incredibly effective, incredibly efficient. Discarding only 1 card, yeah, you put a good amount of mana to that X. Again, if you focus on ramping quite a bit in this deck, you can definitely really take advantage of X mana spells like this one. Draw a ton of cards, make a ton of tentacle creatures out of absolutely nowhere. Again, your opponents are going to be quite wary if you are, well, you flush with mana. If you've got a bunch of mana open on their turn and they are about to attack you and they're like, maybe I shouldn't because they've got mana open, they could just draw a bunch of cards, and then all of a sudden I've got an army to block you. Next up, even the score. Also, they should be wary of drawing a bunch of cards themselves because this one is going to cost blue less to cast. If your opponent has drawn 4 more cards this turn, draw X cards. So yeah, certain wheel effects are going to have your opponents wheel with you as well. This can kind of force the issue where it's like, oh no, opponents, did you draw cards? Sweet, okay, I can just cast this just for X essentially. So draw a ton of cards at a greatly reduced cost. And even if you aren't reducing this cost, still, X and 3 is kind of the usual just for drawing X cards. That is what you can usually assume. Again, pull from tomorrow, just cost 2 on that blue. That is going to have a slight downside again of discarding 1 card at 3 or 0. This is an incredible card. Moving on, Transcendent Message. 1 more mana for that. Again, an extra blue up here. Instant for X, blue. 4 blues. I probably said that wrong. Anyways, draw X cards, but this has Convoke, so your creature can help you cast it. Here you go. Basically, how many of those tentacles do you have in play? Tap all of them. Just tap all of them right before your turn on your opponent's end step, and then, yeah, double up your army. Even more so than if you put even more mana into that, essentially. Yeah, this is pretty absurd. Draw a ton of cards, make a ton of tentacles, and yeah, if you can get this back from your graveyard and back in your hand, just recast it for even more. So yeah, have fun with that. Your Convoking can be a great thing, obviously. On top of that, of course, we've got other ways that we can take advantage of the massive army that we can make incredibly easy with tap effects like Opposition. This card is gross. This card is, well, it can be very mean. Have you ever heard of Squirrel Opposition? Very fun concept. Regardless, an enchantment for 2 blue. Tap it on tap creature control. Tap target artifact, creature, or land. It's not land destruction, everyone. It's land tapping. At a certain point, you just win. You literally just win with this in play. Your opponents can do nearly nothing against you once you are set up properly. This is a hilariously awful and mean card, but it's great. Again, hey, with those sun counters, this works incredibly well, right? You're distributing those sun counters out, as soon as you are, losing your tentacles, you remove a sun counter maybe from your, big, legendary creature, whatever it is, and then put a sun counter on something else. And then you just tap them down with this and say, oh, sorry, yeah. You know what? You're not going to be able to use that for a while. And then, yeah, again, eventually, once you have enough tentacles in play, tap down all your opponent's lands. They can't do anything about it, really. Sure, if they have, like, an instant speed effect, they can try to stop you. But if they don't, they're done. And even if they do, you probably have a counterspell to stop that. So you just win. You just win with opposition. Moving on, I think this was my most mentioned card last spoiler season. It might be this spoiler season because Wizards is putting draw on a lot of commanders. Now, this commander doesn't draw you cards, but obviously drawing more cards is always going to be a good thing with this commander. Thought Reflection doubles up every single one of your draws, essentially. Enchantment for 7 mana, well worth that 7 mana. Again, with this kind of a commander, you probably want to focus heavily on ramping anyways, because you can, again, benefit very heavily from those X spells. So cool. Get this in play, cast an X spell, draw yourself cards, or again, wheel and essentially double up your hand size and make an absurd amount of tentacles. Yeah, Thought Reflection is going to do a lot of work for you. Also, in a very funny way, maybe if you want to kind of go a little wonky with this deck, you can. Consider something like Masquerade Nexus. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't in the battlefield. So, hey, every single one of your creatures are now Krakens as well. So, hey, whenever one of your tentacles dies, which actually is now any of your creatures, right? That is going to allow you to untap one of your creatures. So untap maybe something with a tap effect, which is now obviously also a Kraken. So how about Arcanist Omnipotent, the Wizard Kraken, and everything else? 3/4 Wizard, 4/6 mana, tap, draw 3 cards. Yep, this is just a way to draw an absurd amount of cards. And yeah, there's a lot of other crazy effects that you can get, I am sure, as well. But yeah, again, this is kind of a different, wonkier direction. There are plenty of tutors for something like Masquerade Nexus, so you definitely could do this. I'd say most decks are probably going to go more so for wheels, more so for a massive amounts of card draw, although this obviously is, and this would work incredibly well with, obviously in combination with your commander on your opponent's turn, so drawing cards, making tentacles. That being said, I think more are going to focus on, well, Sea Monster Tribal and just wheels in general. Moving on, though, let's move on to the pricier picks, and there are some great ones out there as well to consider, and one that is quite, good, but almost too good, really. And let's talk about Kindred Discovery. An enchantment for 5 mana, enters the battlefield, chooses a creature type. Tentacle. Whenever a creature controlled the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Okay, so if you make a single tentacle on an opponent's turn, this is infinite. Okay, not infinite, because technically you're probably going to lose the game unless you're set up properly, because, you're going to make a tentacle, draw a card. Oh no, make a tentacle, draw another card. Uh-oh. You keep doing that again and again and again. It is a loop that you cannot stop unless you get rid of Kindred Discovery, or your commander. And again, that would just mill yourself and you would lose. Unless, of course, you are going for a win condition that's don't like too much. Laboratory Maniac. This kind of win condition, whether it's Thassa's Oracle, Labman, or Jace Builder Mysteries, whatever they are, yeah, I mean, it can be really easy to pull off in other ways. This is not the easiest way to pull it off, but it's really not that many pieces to a combo. Again, basically 3 cards, right? Your commander, Kindred Discovery, and this, or, one of the other ones. If you draw a card, we have libraries of cards in it, you win the game instead. So basically, instead of losing, you just win for doing what you shouldn't do. So there you go. You just win, unless your opponents can stop this from happening. Moving on, of course, we've got more wheel effects in the pricier picks as well. This one just outside of my budget at $1.04. Credit voucher. Love you, credit voucher. And I believe I draw your deck when I started. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice it, shuffle any number of cards in your hand in your library, then draw that many cards. Basically, a wheel that you can just keep on the board and utilize when you need to. It's going to be a massive play again for just 2 mana once you're set up. Or how about 1 mana? Jace's Archivist. Pay a single blue mana, tap, each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. Basically, again, windfall on anyone's turn. So have fun with that. If you've got untap effects as well, I guess if you Masquerade Nexus with this, that could be quite fun. So yeah, a way to draw an absurd amount of cards on other players' turns. I mean, this happens to everyone, but still, actually, you could actually probably mill players with this too. If you really want to do that, you probably could. Next up, a card that is a great include in this deck, doesn't really take up a slot at all, is Nesting Grounds. Tap for a colorless, pay 1, tap, move a counter from target permanent you control onto another target permanent, activate only sorcery. Yeah, put this on an opponent's take a stun counter from your commander and put it on an opponent's permanent. Whatever you want to put it on. Have fun. Yeah, just another great include in this kind of a deck. Thought Vessel. I mean, obviously a very good mana rock, very effective, very efficient artifact for 2 taps for colors. Doesn't really matter that doesn't tap for blue. Again, you are in mono blue. You don't really need mana fixing at all. You have no maximum hand size. That is huge for a deck that really wants to draw an absurd amount of cards and then wheel an absurd amount of cards. Yeah, with a wheel deck specifically, having no maximum hand size can be incredible because, again, you're not limited to just 7. You can draw up to like 20 or whatever and then wheel and then draw more 20. It's pretty crazy, pretty absurd, the things you can do when you have no maximum hand size with a deck like this. Next up. Just off by 2 cents from being in my budget buys. Phase of the Past, $1.01 enchantment for Tuna Blue. Whenever a creature's put a grave from play, tap or untap all creatures share a creature type with it. This one works in a somewhat different way. It's not going to untap your Kraken unless you have other Krakens getting sacrificed or dying or whatnot. I guess if you've got Massive Nexus, sure, it untaps all. But with this one, if your tentacles die, they untap all your other tentacles. So it's kind of like a weird vigilance in a way. And I'm sure there's some broken things that you can do with it too. Again, Massive Nexus, fun times. Next up, Intruder Alarm. This one is a broken card in many ways. It was actually part of one of my very first decks I ever built with like Wirewood Channeler. It's an elf that taps for mana, and then Centaur Glade, something that makes centaurs and never sees play anywhere. Anyways, enchantment for 2 and a blue. Creatures don't untap their controllers untap steps. Whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So it's a very easy, effective way to get rid of your commander's stun counters in basically no time. In basically no time, you're just like, okay, oh, I drew 9 cards on a monster turn. Okay, I made 9 tentacles. Okay, I untap my commander 9 times. Yeah, this can very easily get out of control. And again, if you are going that Maskwood Nexus crazy build, essentially, there's easy combos you can pull off with that too. Arcanus the Omnipotent plus Maskwood Nexus plus Intruder Alarm plus your commander would go infinite right then and there. Then Invasion of Segovia. This is a very interesting one, a Battle Siege. When it enters the battlefield, create 2/1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens and tramples. Oh, hey, cool, some extra Kraken, that's nice. But when you take this down, which of course you can very easily do so with your massive army, hey, let's flip it over. We got Cadus, the Sea Tyrant of Segovia. 3/3 non-creature spells you cast have Convoke. And at the beginning of your end step, untap for target creature. So again, another way to get, basically pseudo-vigilance on some creatures and also untap your commander. And yeah, the important part here though is your non-creature spells have Convoke. Every single one of your non-creature spells have Convoke, which means you're going to be casting wheel after wheel after wheel after wheel. This is a very disgusting combination, and yeah, your opponents better look out for it. If they see this, they better let you take out that battle. And then finally, because I kind of have to reference it every single time I reference Thought Reflection, yeah, I got to talk about Teferi's Ageless Insight. A great card. Basically, a slightly worse Thought Reflection when it's actually in play, but it costs 3 less, so that's great. If you would draw a card except the first one you draw, you draw steps, draw 2 instead, so it's going to double up all the draws that you really care about. Again, on your opponent's turns, you are going to be, well, drawing a ton of cards and doubling that up and making twice as many tokens and have fun. So yeah, overall, a very interesting commander. Again, I am sorry I was wrong on it. I was right that I paired the ability with the actual, character from the books, but yeah, that kind of seemed obvious. Not too many things have tentacles in Lord of the Rings, so there you go. But I was wrong on basically everything else. I was slightly close on the mana cost, but I was off that it's not Dimir. I still think it should be Dimir. Let me know in the comments below what you think on that. And I was off on basically everything else. But yeah, I mean, I like this version as well. There's a lot of gross things that you can do with it. Again, it's going to be great in a Sea Monster Tribal deck. It's going to be great in, well, a Commander deck on its own. It's going to be pretty incredible. And again, you can take it in different directions. You can go Sea Monster Tribal with it as the helm of the Commander deck. You can go, wheels. You can go massive card draw. You can go even weird Maskwood Nexus fun times with Arcanus Omnipotent and all that jazz. So make sure you, well, try all those out. Just try every single one of them out, right? Or maybe just stick to one. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. And of course, as always, stay tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers. There's been a ton of absurdly cool things coming out and some absurdly pushed things that Wizards maybe needs to slow down on. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so let me know what your thoughts are on in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.